Chapter 4190. The godly general who had fought against Chiu Moon wasn't from the heavenly human clan, so he wasn't very strong. He only had the strength of the fourth great supreme god layer, so he was weaker than the godly general of the heavenly human clan. Chiu's sword appeared in front of that person and slashed at his head. That person was startled and hastily tried to defend himself. However, he couldn't use external strength. Not only was his defense weakened, but his attack power was also weakened. He couldn't block Chiu's attack. Sword light flashed and the godly general's attack was destroyed. Then blood splashed everywhere. A cut appeared between the eyebrows of that cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer. The man's aura rapidly weakened. His eyes were filled with great shock and disbelief. In the next moment, the life aura on his body completely disappeared. He was dead. A godly general of the fourth great supreme god layer had been killed by Chiu instantly. Actually, if Chiu had fought against him directly, it would have been difficult for Chiu to kill him instantly, even though Chiu was much stronger than him. However, Chiu had been completely unprepared. Lu Ming had suddenly used the talisman of the forbidden weapon area to suppress the godly general's armor and weapon. Chiu had been fighting against the godly general of the heavenly human clan, but he had suddenly attacked him. Everything had happened too quickly. The godly general didn't have time to use his full strength, so he had been killed instantly. Clang. After Chiu had killed the cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer, his sword shook slightly and then he moved towards the godly general of the heavenly human clan. He had to be quick. He had to finish the battle quickly. Lu Ming knew that there were too many strong cultivators from the heavenly palace this time. If they delayed any longer, other strong cultivators could arrive at any time. If they got entangled, they would be in trouble. As long as they could get rid of the strongest godly generals, the others would be easy to deal with. You want to kill me? Don't even think about it. The godly general of the heavenly human clan reacted quickly. He raised his sword to block. With a clang, he exchanged a blow with Chiu and retreated explosively. Chiu continued attacking. Die. Hurry up and kill them, shouted the godly general of the heavenly human clan. Die. Two other godly generals of the third great supreme god layer shouted furiously and attacked Lu Ming and Chiu Moon. Their battle armors were suppressed, but Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and the others' killing weapons were also suppressed. They didn't believe that with their strength of the third great supreme god layer, they couldn't defeat Chiu and the others. Two experts of the third great supreme god layer had attacked. Their power was terrifying and terrifying. Lu Ming's face turned solemn. Stay behind me and block the attacks of the other heavenly soldiers. Leave these two to me, Lu Ming said. As long as he could delay these two for a few moves, he believed that Chiu would quickly end the battle. As long as Chiu finished the battle and came to help them, this victory would be theirs. You don't have to do all of them. Give me one. A cold voice sounded. Lu Ming was very familiar with this voice. Naturally, it was from Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon stepped forward and her body was covered by 9 colored lights. At that moment, Autumn Moon shouted and pointed her finger. People could see that among the 9 colored lights on Autumn Moon's body, one of them was dazzling. It completely suppressed the other 8 lights. It was dazzling. Lu Ming faintly saw a heart appear where Autumn Moon's heart was. That heart was different. It had 9 orifices. Each of the 9 orifices had a different color. At that moment, one of the orifices had a particularly bright color. It was the same color as the one outside. As Autumn Moon pointed her finger, a bright light appeared and turned into a finger pointing at the godly general of the third great supreme god layer. Boom! The two of them exchanged blows. The godly general of the third great supreme god layer's attack was blocked. Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. Even though Autumn Moon didn't have a great weapon, she was still very strong. She could block a godly general of the third great supreme god layer with just the strength of the first great supreme god layer. That was beyond Lu Ming's expectation. The 9 orifices' sacred heart was indeed powerful. Even though Lu Ming was observing Autumn Moon, he didn't stay idle. He kept punching the other godly general of the third great supreme god layer. Apart from those godly generals, the rest of the first-class celestial soldiers were nothing to worry about. Even though there were many first-class celestial soldiers, godly Lord Meng Su's 2 disciples could protect themselves. The battle was in a stalemate, but Qiu had the upper hand. That. Qiu shouted and started attacking crazily. The sky was filled with sword lights. It looked like a rain of swords was falling from the sky. The Heavenly Human Clan's godly general was completely on the defensive. Finally, the Heavenly Human Clan's godly general was hit in the chest by a sword light. Now, without the protection of the godly general's armor, the sword light pierced through the Heavenly Human Clan's godly general's heart, splitting it in half. The Heavenly Human Clan's godly general screamed and retreated, coughing up blood. Although the sword light couldn't kill him, it could still severely injure him and reduce his fighting strength. That was enough. He wasn't Qiu's match in the first place. Now that his fighting strength was reduced, he was even less of a match for Qiu. Kill him when he's down. Qiu wouldn't miss such an opportunity. After injuring his opponent with one move, his following attacks were even more violent. The sky was filled with sword shadows and sword rays. Each of the sword rays was billions of miles long, leaving long cracks in the starry sky of the universe. Blood splattered everywhere, flying 1,000,000 miles away. Then, a head was thrown high into the sky. It was the Heavenly Human Clan's godly general's head. He had been decapitated by Qiu. He wasn't dead yet. His eyes were filled with fear and he wanted to escape. But Qiu wouldn't let him escape. With a swoosh, a sword light slashed across and split the Heavenly Human Clan's godly general's head in half. The soul inside was also destroyed. The Heavenly Human Clan's godly general had died on the spot. The other godly generals and first-class heavenly soldiers gasped with fear in their eyes. This was a Heavenly Human Clan's godly general. The Heavenly Palace would be furious if he was killed just like that. At the same time, they also wanted to retreat. Qiu was too powerful. If he attacked them, they would only die. Let's go! Let's go! The remaining godly generals and first-class heavenly soldiers retreated at the same time. They didn't want to fight anymore and flew in a direction. Don't even think about leaving, Qiu wanted to chase them, but Lu Ming stopped him. Don't chase a desperate enemy. Let's get out of here first. Lu Ming said to Qiu. Qiu flew back to Lu Ming's hand and turned into a bracelet. Who are you? Why did you save us? Qiu Moon and the other 2 women looked at Lu Ming curiously. They didn't understand why a first-class heavenly soldier from the Heavenly Palace would save them. He didn't hesitate to kill the Heavenly Human Clan's godly general and offend the Heavenly Palace. Besides, Lu Ming's fighting strength shocked them even more. They had clearly seen that Lu Ming had resisted the attack of a cultivator of the 3rd Great Supreme God layer with the strength of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. It was incredible. Chapter 4191. Qiu Autumn Moon and the other 2 were puzzled. Why would this monstrously strong genius save them at the expense of offending the Heavenly Palace? Could it be that he admired their beauty? That was not impossible. After all, they were beauties that were 1 in a billion. Now is not the time to talk. There are many people from the Heavenly Palace this time. Let's leave this place first. Lu Ming said. Okay, let's leave first. This way. Qiu Autumn Moon nodded and flew in a direction. Lu Ming followed closely behind. Soon, they left the area covered by the Forbidden Army domain. As soon as they left the area covered by the Forbidden Army domain, Lu Ming's first-class celestial soldier armor appeared. You have the first-class celestial soldier armor. As far as I know, the celestial soldier armor has a restrictive power that can control you. As long as the experts from the Heavenly Palace control it, you will definitely die. Qiu Autumn Moon said with a worried look in her eyes. She did not recognize Lu Ming. She just felt that Lu Ming had risked his life to save them. If he died in their hands, she could not bear to see him die. Don't worry, I have a way to break it. Lu Ming smiled. At the same time, he circulated the restrictive power and distributed it to every cell of his body. Soon, Lu Ming found the restrictive power on the celestial soldier armor. This power could also be distributed to every cell. If it were anyone else facing this power, they would be helpless. However, it was not a problem at all for the forbidden body. After finding this power, Lu Ming circulated the restrictive power and surrounded this power. Then he began to refine it. Soon, this power was completely refined by Lu Ming. The first-class celestial soldier armor flew out of Lu Ming's body and was caught by Lu Ming. Once the restrictive power was refined by Lu Ming could no longer wear or use the celestial soldier armor. You actually broke free from the restraint of the celestial soldier armor? Chiao Autumn Moon and the other two widened their eyes in shock and disbelief. They had never heard of anyone who could break free from the restraint of the celestial soldier armor. In their hearts, Lu Ming was even more mysterious and unpredictable. Although Lu Ming was refining the restrictive power of the celestial soldier armor, they did not stop. Flying fast, they continued to fly in a certain direction. At the same time, Lu Ming put the celestial soldier armor into a storage ring. "Brother, can you tell us now? Why did you save us?" Chiao Autumn Moon asked. "You." Lu Ming smiled and revealed his true identity. There was no need for Lu Ming to hide anything from Chiao Yu. He had no intention of hiding anything. As soon as he said that, Chiao Yu's body stiffened and her expression changed drastically. She stared deeply at Lu Ming with her beautiful eyes, revealing a cold, murderous intent. Chiao Autumn Moon's body emitted a dazzling light that slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He did not expect Chiao Autumn Moon to attack him. In a hurry, he blocked the attack and collided with the light. With a boom, Lu Ming was sent flying. "Junior sister Chiao Autumn Moon, what's going on?" The other two disciples of Lord God Dream Void looked at the scene in shock. They were also confused. They did not expect Chiao Autumn Moon to attack Lu Ming. Chiao Autumn Moon did not answer them. Instead, she stared at Lu Ming and said coldly, "Tell me, who are you? Why did you pretend to be my young master?" "So it's a misunderstanding." Lu Ming was relieved. He knew that he had a forbidden body now. His life origin aura was completely different from before. It was no wonder that Chiao Autumn Moon would misunderstand. "Chiao Autumn Moon, I am indeed your young master. Because I cultivated a special technique, my life origin aura has changed." Lu Ming explained. "Life origin aura has changed? I have never heard of such a technique. You'd better show me evidence. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Chiao Autumn Moon said coldly. Her body was filled with cold, killing intent. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and said, "Chiao Autumn Moon, we are from the Lu family of the Divine Wilderness continent in the primordial realm. You grew up in the Lu family. Do you still remember that I was the one who helped you open your meridians?" Lu Ming began to talk about the common memories of both of them. Some things were only known to Lu Ming and Chiao Autumn Moon. Chiao Autumn Moon listened carefully. However, the killing intent in her eyes did not fade. Instead, it grew stronger. Suddenly, Chiao Autumn Moon attacked again. A dazzling 9-colored light, beautiful and terrifying, slashed at Lu Ming's head. Chiao Autumn Moon used her killer weapon. A machete shrouded in 9-colored light. Its power was very terrifying. "Chiao Autumn Moon, what are you doing? Why are you attacking?" Lu Ming exclaimed. He had to use the mysterious ice rod to block it. With a clang, there was a violent vibration. Lu Ming blocked Chiao Autumn Moon's machete, and he himself also floated back. "Tell me, who are you? What did you do to young master? Why do you have young master's memories? Did you search young master's soul?" Chiao Autumn Moon shouted. Her killing intent was incomparably dense. A powerful aura locked onto Lu Ming, ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Obviously, Chiao Autumn Moon still did not believe him. She thought that he searched Lu Ming's soul and obtained Lu Ming's memories. This kind of thing could happen. In the universe, this kind of thing was not rare. For a moment, Lu Ming did not know how to explain it. If he were in her shoes, he would not believe it so easily. Even the aura of a person's life origin had changed. A person's appearance, body shape, voice, temperament, and so on were easy to change. Only the life origin aura was difficult to change. Needless to say, it was a complete change. It was a completely different person. Anyone who encountered it would find it hard to believe. What? You can't say anything. Tell me, what did you do to young master? If you don't explain it clearly today, I will kill you. Chiyo Autumn Moon shouted. As she spoke, tears were already rolling in her eyes. If someone had really searched Lu Ming's soul and even his most private memories had been obtained, it meant that Lu Ming was in grave danger. The odds were against him. Chiyo Autumn Moon, I'm really Lu Ming. I'm really young master, Lu Ming said helplessly. Yes, he is Lu Ming. Chiyo Autumn Moon, do you still recognize me? At this moment, a voice sounded. It was Chiyo. Then, Chiyo flew out and turned into a round ball, swinging around in the air. Chiyo? Chiyo Autumn Moon's eyes widened in surprise. Chiyo Autumn Moon, of course, recognized him. However, the battle just now was intense. Moreover, Chiyo turned into a long spear or a long sword as soon as he attacked. It was completely different from before. Moreover, Chiyo had swallowed a large number of broken divine weapons over the years, and his temperament had changed a little. Therefore, Chiyo Autumn Moon did not look carefully before and did not recognize him at first. At this moment, Chiyo had turned into a round ball. Chiyo Autumn Moon looked carefully and immediately recognized Chiyo. After all, Chiyo's life origin aura had not changed. Chapter 4192. Yes, I'm Chiyo. Autumn Moon, long time no see. Lu Ming has been looking for you all this time. Chiyo's round body flew around Chiyo as it spoke. Autumn Moon looked at Chiyo carefully. Finally, her eyes were filled with surprise. She was sure that Chiyo was not controlled and was free. So, what Chiyo said was true. Autumn Moon looked at Lu Ming again and said, You're really young master? Of course, silly girl. Lu Ming said with a smile. Yes, it's the smile. You're really young master. Young master, I finally meet you. Autumn Moon was pleasantly surprised. She flew up and threw herself into Lu Ming's arms as if she was unwilling to leave. She was too familiar with Lu Ming. Now that she had calmed down, she could feel from Lu Ming's smile that this was Lu Ming. The aura of life origin had changed, but the smile was still the same. Silly girl, let's leave this place first. The people of the Heavenly Palace will catch up with us soon. Lu Ming said. Autumn Moon nodded. They continued to fly in the direction they had just been. There was no time to chat. They could only talk about the details when they were safe. Autumn Moon had a lot of questions in her heart, but she could only keep them to herself for the time being. But this time, they did not fly far before a team appeared in front of them. A divine general with 12 first-class heavenly soldiers. They're over there. Stop them. The divine general also noticed Lu Ming and the others and immediately shouted. Go over there. Chiyo, you lead the way. Lu Ming shouted. He waved his hand and Chiyo flew out. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Chiyo shouted. It flew out and turned into a black spear. It pierced through the void and rushed to the front of the heavenly soldiers and divine general in the blink of an eye. The black spear pierced out, and the boundless power in the starry sky gathered. A huge primordial divine spirit was condensed. This primordial divine spirit was also wielding a black spear, which he swept out horizontally. The void shook violently. This black spear was even larger than a planet. It traversed the starry sky and pressed down on the 12 first-class celestial soldiers and one divine general. The godly general only had the strength of the third great supreme god layer. When he sensed how terrifying that attack was, his expression changed drastically. He shouted furiously, "Activate your armor! Block it! Block it!" The divine general desperately activated his divine general armor. The other 12 first-class celestial soldiers also desperately activated their first-class celestial soldier armor to block. Boom! The black spear swept out and 13 figures were sent flying like 13 rubber balls. The divine general was still all right. He had the divine general battle armor and his defense was extremely strong. Chiyo couldn't break through his defense and only sent him flying millions of miles away. However, those first-class heavenly soldiers were not so lucky. Their first-class celestial soldier armor was swept by the black spear and violently vibrated. Then it exploded. A few of the first-class celestial soldiers had suffered a stronger attack and their bodies had exploded and turned into ashes. Lu Ming and the others rushed over and disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Ha, you can't even withstand a single blow." Qiu was immensely proud of himself as he flew back to Lu Ming's side. Qiu, Autumn Moon and the others looked at Qiu curiously. Qiu's fighting strength had surprised them. How could a metallic creature be so strong? Could it be a member of the imperial clan of the metallic creatures? Qiu, Autumn Moon and the others couldn't help but think. The metallic creatures were one of the top clans in the universe, one of the 10 strongest clans. They were incomparably strong. Amongst them, the imperial clan of the metallic creatures were incomparably strong. Each one of them was a peerless genius. It was just that there were very few of them. At that moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. Because the void in front of them suddenly rippled like water. A terrifying aura spread out from there. This aura was too terrifying. It caused the surrounding starry sky and countless stars to tremble as if they were about to explode. Divine Lord! Lu Ming and the others' expressions changed drastically. This aura was definitely that of a divine lord. It was too terrifying. They were far from being a match. "Let's go!" Lu Ming roared, wanting to change direction and escape. "You want to escape in front of me? How naive!" A cold voice rang out. A figure suddenly appeared in the void. This figure had 12 wings on his back and his entire body was enveloped in pure white holy light. This was a divine lord of the angel race. The moment the divine lord of the angel race appeared, his aura became even more terrifying. Lu Ming and the others' bodies suddenly stiffened. Because the void had been completely sealed, under this terrifying aura, they couldn't move at all. "Hand over the sovereign's heart, destroy your own cultivation, and follow me back to the heavenly palace to beg for forgiveness," the divine lord of the angel race said coldly. His body was incomparably huge. His head was comparable to a planet. Standing in the void, he gave Lu Ming and the others too much pressure. "It's over. I can't move." Lu Ming roared in his heart. At this moment, he wanted to take out the purple copper coffin, but he couldn't. "Bone Demon, do you have any ideas?" Lu Ming asked Lu Ming. "No, I'm too weak. If I was at my peak, I could kill him with a slap. But now you're on your own," Bone Demon said. Lu Ming was speechless. His mind was spinning rapidly to see if there was any way. "You," Autumn Moon was about to shout, "don't even think about making me hand over the sovereign's heart." But before she could do so, she was stopped by Lu Ming. "Autumn Moon, I'll speak." Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon's voice came to an abrupt halt. "Yes, we can hand over the sovereign's heart. But it's not in our hands. We've hidden it in a secret place. If you want it, we can bring you there," Lu Ming shouted. Although he didn't know what the sovereign's heart was, it didn't stop him from making things up. "Brat, bring me there. If you dare to play any tricks, I'll make sure you die miserably," the divine lord of the angel race said. "I won't lie to you. But I have a condition." Lu Ming said. "Brat, you don't have the right to negotiate with me. Bring me there," the divine lord of the angel race said coldly. A divine emperor Brat wanted to negotiate with him? What a joke. "I can only negotiate with you. The sovereign's heart is in the hands of a friend of mine. Even if you capture us and search our souls, it's useless. I've already transmitted my voice to him, telling him to take the sovereign's heart and leave as he pleases. I don't know where he is now unless I contact him personally. You can kill me and search my soul, but you can't force me to contact him." Lu Ming continued to make things up. He was stalling for time, hoping for a change. Otherwise, if the other party attacked directly, they would have no hope at all. "Brat, you're good." The divine lord of the angel race's eyes were filled with coldness. However, he couldn't tell if Lu Ming was telling the truth. Chapter 4193. The angel race godlord couldn't tell if Lu Ming was telling the truth or not. Of course, he wouldn't completely trust Lu Ming, but if Lu Ming was telling the truth, then even if he captured Lu Ming and the others and searched their souls, it would be useless. Speak. What are your conditions? The angel race godlord asked. Very simple. I'll take you to get the Lord's heart, and you let them go first. Lu Ming pointed at Qiu Yu and the others. No, young master, Qiu Yu immediately panicked. The angel race godlord said coldly and domineeringly, none of you can leave. If you don't agree, you won't get the Lord's heart either. Lu Ming retorted. Capture you. I have plenty of ways to make you obediently lead the way. The angel race godlord's eyes flashed coldly as he stepped forward, his aura even more terrifying. He didn't want to waste any more words with Lu Ming. He had plenty of ways to make Lu Ming submit. This guy, Lu Ming inwardly sighed. This old fellow was indeed not easy to fool. It was already hard enough to buy him some time. All of you, hurry up and leave. At this moment, a voice rang out, and then a rainbow-colored beam of light shot out from above, charging at the angel race godlord. Master! Qiu Yu and the others were overjoyed. Dream Void. The angel race godlord roared as he gripped the angel god sword and slashed with all his strength. Boom! The two attacks collided, unleashing a heaven-shaking explosion. The angel race godlord's body violently trembled as he retreated. It was clear that the angel race godlord was weaker than Dream Void. High above, Dream Void's figure flashed as he appeared. Godlord Dream Void cut a sorry figure, his body stained with blood. His aura was not at its peak, but he was injured. Master! Master, what happened to you? Qiu Yu and the others cried out in alarm, their faces filled with worry. I'm fine. Hurry up and leave. Leave him to me. With a wave of his hand, a gust of energy wrapped around Lu Ming and the rest, pushing them hundreds of millions of miles away. Then, he stepped out and charged toward the almighty master of the Angel Clan in an extremely domineering manner. Go! Lu Ming pulled Autumn Moon and flew into the distance. The other two disciples of God Lord Dream Void quickly followed. They knew very well that even if they stayed, they wouldn't be of any use to God Lord Dream Void. They might even drag him down. Their speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had flown far away. However, he could still vaguely see that there was another person on the battlefield. Heavenly Monarch Yeshen. The powerful existence who had fought with God Lord Dream Void had arrived as well, but was stopped by God Lord Dream Void. Master! Autumn Moon and the other two had tears in their eyes. God Lord Dream Void was fighting 1 against 2, so they couldn't help but be worried. Don't worry. God Lord Dream Void is very strong, so he'll definitely be fine. The most important thing for all of you now is to complete the mission that God Lord Dream Void gave you. Right, where are you going next? Lu Ming comforted them before asking. Primordial Divine Lake. Master wants us to go there. He said that there will be experts from the Primordial Divine Lake coming to receive us. We shouldn't be too far from the entrance of the Primordial Divine Lake. Autumn Moon said. Primordial Divine Lake? Lu Ming was confused. He had never heard of this name before. Could it be related to the Primordial Divine Spirit? Then let's speed up. Lu Ming said. The group sped up, flying at full speed. But soon, they encountered another group of divine generals and divine soldiers. No, this area is surrounded by the experts of the Heavenly Palace. It'll be very difficult for us to break out. Lu Ming frowned. What should we do? Even though Master told me that we're not too far from the entrance of the Primordial Divine Lake, we don't know how far we are. Autumn Moon looked worried. They seemed to have been completely surrounded. The divine soldiers and divine generals they had encountered so far weren't very strong. The strongest one was only of the 4th Great Supreme God Layer. If they had encountered someone of the 5th Great Supreme God Layer or a Divine Lord, they would have been in trouble. I have an idea. I have a formation plate that can open a wormhole to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. We can go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet first and then go to the Primordial Divine Lake from there. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had thought of an idea. Back then, Ao Qian had given him 36 formation plates. They could open a wormhole to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Now, They could use them to go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet first, and then go to the primordial divine lake from there. That way no one would know. It's not bad to have such a treasure. Autumn Moon and the others' eyes lit up. But it'll take some time to activate the formation plate. I hope we can make it in time, Lu Ming said. Then, Lu Ming waved his hand and the 36 formation plates flew out and floated in the air. Forbidden energy was injected into the formation plates. Immediately, the 36 formation plates lit up and spun rapidly in the air. A mysterious fluctuation spread out. The formation plates were slowly opening a wormhole. I hope we can make it in time. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon and the others were looking forward to it. The formation plates shone brighter and brighter, and the fluctuation became more intense. Not long after, a vortex appeared in the middle of the formation plates. At first, the vortex was not deep, but slowly, as the vortex spun rapidly, the vortex became deeper and deeper. It was connecting to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Once it was connected, they would be able to go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet through the wormhole. However, at that moment, Lu Ming and the others' expressions changed. Behind them, there was a fluctuation in the air. Then, a group of people appeared. There were more than 30 people in that group. Lu Ming glanced at them and knew that they were 3 teams. 3 divine generals led a group of first-class celestial soldiers. Die! A loud roar was heard as one of the divine generals made his move. He held a golden sword in his hand and slashed out. A golden sword light tore through the void, traversing hundreds of millions of miles, and slashed at the 36 formation discs. With their eyesight, they could see that Lu Ming and the others were opening a wormhole. His attack was aimed at the wormhole. I'll block it. Chiu flew out and turned into a black spear. It thrust forward and collided with the golden sword light. There was a loud explosion and the golden spear was blocked. However, Chiu's black spear also shook and was pushed back. A heavenly human of the 4th great god layer. Lu Ming's heart sank. The divine general who had attacked just now was also a heavenly human. Lu Ming had never seen him before. There were 18 teams that had set off together, but in fact, there were more than 18 teams that had participated in the hunt for Lord God Meng Su and the others. Lu Ming had never seen any of the 3 teams in front of him. Chapter 4194. This celestial tribe divine general was very powerful, even more so than the celestial tribe divine general killed by Chiu. Lu Ming reckoned that this heavenly human tribe divine general was a powerful supreme talent. He was able to fight someone who was 4 levels above him in the divine emperor realm. Otherwise, he would not be able to suppress Chiu with a cultivation level higher than him. You want to leave? Stay here and die. The celestial general was holding a golden sword. He was extremely fast. In just a few steps, he was already close to Lu Ming and the others. The other 2 celestial generals also rushed over. Those 2 celestial generals had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god layer. They were very strong. Leave them to me. Young master, go and help Chiu, said Chiu Moon. A machete appeared in her hand. She was surrounded by 9 colored lights. With a clang, the machete flew out. It turned into 2 rays of light and slashed towards the 2 celestial generals of the 3rd great supreme god layer. Lu Ming was holding the mysterious ice rod. Together with Chiu, they attacked the celestial general. They had to stop those celestial generals and celestial generals. They had to buy time for the formation. Once the formation was activated, they would be able to enter the wormhole and go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Ao Qian was in charge of the Dragon Clan's mother planet. There was also the forbidden flying phoenix's soul. Even the Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Palace wouldn't dare go there rashly. Traitors, die! Shouted the celestial general. His golden sword slashed towards Lu Ming and Chiu. Clang, clang. The 3 of them collided fiercely. Lu Ming's body shook violently. He felt an extremely strong strength rush towards him. He was pushed back and coughed up blood. At the same time, Chiu was pushed back. That celestial general's fighting strength was astonishing. He had the strength of the 4th great supreme god layer. He was as strong as a candidate of the universe young geniuses list. He was stronger than Qiu Qiu. He was much stronger than Lu Ming. You still want to leave? The divine general of the celestial race shouted coldly. Golden sword light slashed wildly at Lu Ming and Qiu Qiu. He could see that Lu Ming was weaker, so he used more power to slash at Lu Ming, wanting to kill Lu Ming in one fell swoop. Young master, let me help you. On the other side, Qiu Autumn Moon rushed toward Lu Ming and slashed at the heavenly human tribe divine general. As for the other two god generals and the first-class celestial soldiers, they were left to the other two disciples of God Lord Dream Void. Cling. Autumn Moon also exchanged a blow with the heavenly human tribe divine general. Her scimitar was also sent flying. Even Autumn Moon was no match for him. Seizing this opportunity, Lu Ming and Qiu Qiu attacked the heavenly human divine general again. Qiu Qiu used all his strength and turned into a long sword. It split into countless sword lights and slashed at the heavenly human tribe divine general. The sword lights filled the entire void. Lu Ming was enveloped in dazzling light. He was using all his strength to activate an ancient secret technique. The Great Shift Technique. Explode! Lu Ming bellowed. He cast the transference skill and directly teleported a huge star from afar. This planet was a resource planet. It was covered in flames and filled with scorching energy. It pressed down on the heavenly human tribe divine general. His cultivation was still not high enough. If it was high enough, he could move the stars in the sky, including the stars, to bombard the enemy. He couldn't do it now. Break! The heavenly human race's divine general shouted. The golden light was huge and boundless. It broke through the starry sky of the universe and slashed horizontally. It directly scattered the golden light emitted by Qiu Qiu and also split the planet that Lu Ming had teleported over into two. Gale bead! When the planet was split in half, Lu Ming took out the gale bead again and used all his strength to guide a gust of wind towards the heavenly human tribe divine general. Autumn Moon also recovered and continued to attack. Qiu Qiu retreated and attacked again. For a moment, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon worked together to block the enemy's attack. Although they were still at a disadvantage, they could still hold on for a while. Almost there, Lu Ming shouted in his mind. As long as they could hold on for a while longer, the wormhole to the dragon race's mother planet would be completely connected. However, reality didn't go as Lu Ming wished. Boom! In the distance, the void collapsed and someone else appeared. It was a fiend shadow, wearing the armor of a divine general. It was an overlord of the fiend race and also a divine general. He didn't lead any heavenly soldiers, but was alone. However, Lu Ming and the others pulled a long face. Because the chi of the fiend race's chi was even stronger than that of the heavenly human tribe divine general. He was definitely a cultivator who had surpassed the fourth great supreme god layer. He had probably reached the fifth great supreme god layer. One person was more threatening than a group of people. You came just in time. They were about to open the wormhole and escape. Destroy them, shouted the divine general of the heavenly human tribe. As long as he destroyed the wormhole that Lu Ming and the others had opened, Lu Ming and the others would be like turtles in a jar. Boom! The fiend race's divine general attacked. His body was huge and he rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Before he even reached them, he threw a punch and a vast fist chi bombarded the 30 formation plates. Oh no! Lu Ming's expression changed. He wanted to stop him, but the divine general of the heavenly human tribe didn't let him. He attacked crazily and Lu Ming couldn't free himself. Similarly, Qiu Qiu and Qiu Qiu couldn't free themselves to stop him. Boom! The fiend race's fist chi bombarded the 30 formation plates. The 36 formation plates shook violently and their lights dimmed. The whirlpool in the middle of the 16 formation plates also quickly disappeared. The 36 formation plates shook and then flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and put them away. The 36 formation plates were fine. After all, they had been made by the space-time spiritual mouse and given to him by Ao Qian. However, now that they had been interrupted, they couldn't go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Now, not only couldn't they go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet, but they also couldn't protect themselves. Boom! The divine general of the demon clan continued to dash toward Lu Ming, bringing with him a billowing demonic aura. Lu Ming, Qiu Moon and the others all pulled a long face. It was already difficult for them to deal with the heavenly human tribe's divine general. Now that there was an even more terrifying fiend race's divine general, they were in a precarious situation. "Leave this fiend to me. You guys have to find a way to escape." Bone's voice rang out. He flew out of Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, his body emitting a black light. "Forbidden demon domain." Bone roared. His eye sockets were filled with raging fiend fire. Dense runes rushed out and formed a huge, forbidden character that pressed down on the fiend race's divine general. Once the fiend race's divine general was enveloped by the forbidden character, his fiend chi rapidly weakened and his aura plummeted. With a puff, the fiend race's divine general spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Chapter 4195. The Bone Demon cast the word, restrict, and injured the divine general of the demon clan in one move. However, the Bone Demon turned into a beam of light and flew back to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. "Bone Demon, you're so powerful. Can you finish off this heavenly human tribe warrior?" Lu Ming asked the Bone Demon telepathically. "No. I can deal with this devil because I'm the ancestor of the Devil Path. I can restrain Devil Path cultivators. I can't do the same to others. Moreover, I'm too weak. That move just now used up all the energy I've accumulated. Now, I'm so weak that I can't use any energy." The Bone Demon telepathically replied to Lu Ming. "How can I make you stronger?" Lu Ming asked as he cooperated with Qiu and Qiu to fight the heavenly human tribe divine general. "Unless you can get me the bones of a divine lord from the devil race for me to refine. Or you can get me the bones of a devil lord from the devil race for me to refine. I can improve and recover quickly," the Bone Demon said. Lu Ming was speechless. Lu Ming was speechless. The bones of a divine lord or devil lord. Where could he get them? "Charge. Let's charge out together." Lu Ming shouted to Qiu Moon and the others. They couldn't delay any longer. They had to charge out as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous. As time passed, more and more experts from the Heavenly Palace would come. "I'll stop them. You guys charge." Qiu roared and rushed to the front desperately, blocking most of the attacks from the Heavenly Human Tribe Divine General. Lu Ming and Qiu Moon joined forces and charged in the same direction. This way, Qiu was under a lot of pressure. He blocked most of the attacks from the Heavenly Human Tribe Divine General, but he couldn't. He was hit in a few moves. Fortunately, Qiu was a metallic life form. Especially Qiu, it was even more special. Its defensive power and vitality were astonishing. Although it was hit, it only suffered light injuries and didn't have much of an effect. In the past, Qiu had frequently transformed into a suit of armor to cover Lu Ming's body, helping him block attacks. It had been pierced through many times without any major problems, so one could see how powerful Qiu's defenses and vitality were. Just like that, Qiu blocked most of the attacks from the Heavenly Human Tribe Divine Generals. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and the others worked together and charged in the same direction. Soon, Lu Ming and the others achieved results and had a chance of breaking out. Apart from the Heavenly Human Tribe Divine Generals, no one else could stop Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. "Kill!" At this moment, the Demon Divine General ignored his injuries and charged at Lu Ming's group again. His two enormous claws swiped at Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon had no choice but to block. The mysterious ice rod and the scimitar slashed at the two claws at the same time. There was a violent explosion. The mysterious ice rod and the scimitar shook violently. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon trembled and moved back 2 steps. After all, the Demon Divine General had the strength of the 5th Great Supreme God Layer. He was extremely strong. Even though he had been injured by the Bone Demon and couldn't completely suppress Lu Ming and Autumn Moon, he was still stronger than Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Lu Ming and the others looked grave. If this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for them. If more people came from the Heavenly Palace, as soon as they had this thought, Lu Ming and the others' expressions changed drastically. Because not far from them, the starry sky rippled again and a group of celestial soldiers and divine generals appeared. This time, there were a lot of people. More than 100 people stepped out from the void. Boom boom, they were all celestial soldiers and divine generals. There were more than 100 of them. They all released powerful chi which swept across the sky. Lu Ming and the others' hearts sank. Some of the divine generals' chi was too terrifying. They were definitely stronger than the celestial human divine general. They had the strength of the fifth great supreme god layer. There was even one who had the strength of the fifth great supreme god layer. His chi could topple mountains and overturn seas. So many strong cultivators had come, they couldn't escape. Let's see how you can escape now. The celestial human divine general laughed wildly. His face looked ferocious. "Traitor, die!" shouted one of the divine generals. He immediately charged towards Lu Ming and the others. "Die!" shouted the other celestial soldiers and divine generals. They all charged towards Lu Ming and the others. But in the next moment, something strange happened. Not far from them, the sky collapsed. A fist pierced through the sky. That fist was gigantic and covered with scales. It looked ferocious. Most importantly, that fist wasn't aimed at Lu Ming and the others. It was aimed at the celestial soldiers and divine generals. "Who are you? How dare you attack the heavenly palace? You're courting death!" shouted the celestial soldiers and divine generals. They all attacked the fist. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions rang out, and the huge fist was blocked. It quickly shrank and retreated. However, the attacks of the celestial soldiers and divine generals were also destroyed. How strong! A fist had destroyed the attacks of hundreds of celestial soldiers and divine generals, including some extremely powerful divine generals. Not only were the celestial soldiers and divine generals confused, but Lu Ming and the others were also confused. They didn't know who had attacked them. Who would save them at this time? The celestial soldiers and divine generals looked grim. "Who's there? Come out!" shouted a divine general. He stared at the direction where the fist had shrunk back. Crash! The void collapsed, and two figures appeared in that place. They were two burly men. They looked to be in their 30s. They were more than 3 meters tall and had a violent aura. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were confused because they didn't know the two burly men. However, Lu Ming felt a familiar aura from the two burly men. Primitive divine spirits. It was the aura of the primitive divine spirits. Lu Ming felt the aura of the primitive divine spirits from the two men. However, it wasn't pure. Lu Ming guessed that the two men had cultivated the primitive divine body. He could tell this from the fist just now. "Who are you? How dare you attack the heavenly palace? Do you want to be killed?" shouted a divine general. "How arrogant! We're attacking the people of the heavenly palace." "Kill!" shouted one of the burly men. He took a step forward and his body swelled rapidly. He turned into a gigantic being that was 1,000,000 feet tall. This being was covered with scales. It was clearly the form of a primitive divine spirit. With a loud roar, the burly man made his move. Both of his fists blasted out consecutively, causing the entire starry sky to tremble. His might was extremely shocking. At the same time, another burly man made his move as well. This burly man transformed into an incomparably gigantic lion. With a roar, a terrifying sound wave spread out. Wherever it passed, large patches of starry skies would crumble apart. Chapter 4196. When the two strong men attacked, the celestial soldiers and godly generals of the heavenly palace were astonished. The two strong men's cultivation levels were terrifying. They both had the strength of the sixth great supreme god layer. Some of the strongest godly generals immediately realized that the two strong men had the strength of the sixth great supreme god layer. On the heavenly palace's side, there was only one cultivator of the sixth great supreme god layer. "Let's attack together and stop them. Their reinforcements will arrive soon. Then they'll die," shouted the cultivator of the sixth great supreme god layer. He activated his battle armor and used his full strength at the same time. The other celestial soldiers and godly generals did the same. They gathered together and activated their battle armor. Boom boom boom. Intense rumbling sounds rang out. Intense fluctuations erupted in the starry sky. Dazzling light illuminated everything for billions of miles. In the end, the dazzling lights broke apart. Those lights were the attacks of the celestial soldiers and godly generals. They couldn't compete with them. The remaining strength bombarded them. Some of the first-class celestial soldiers were unable to block the powerful attack with just the first-class celestial soldier armor. The light barrier formed by the first-class celestial soldiers directly collapsed. Boom boom boom. Many first-level celestial soldiers exploded. Not even their bones remained. The stronger godly generals' battle armor was powerful enough. Even though they hadn't exploded, they still staggered backwards. Only the godly general of the sixth great supreme god layer was safe and sound. The heavenly palace only had one cultivator of the sixth great supreme god layer. Of course, they couldn't block two of the great supreme god layer. In the great supreme god layer, having a large number of people was useless unless they had a great deployment spell. However, those godly generals and first-level celestial soldiers were scattered all over the place. They had never worked together before. How could they use a great deployment spell? How audacious! How dare you kill our heavenly palace's celestial soldiers? You're disgraceful! Shouted a heavenly human cultivator furiously. Heavenly palace? Hee, today, we're going to kill the heavenly palace's people. Of the two burly men, a green-skinned man sneered. He transformed into 1,000,000 feet tall and stepped into the void. Every step he took caused the void to tremble violently. Boom! He threw another punch. His fist was covered in scales. It pierced through the starry sky and contained destructive strength. It swept towards the heavenly palace's celestial soldiers and godly generals. At the same time, the other lion pounced and clawed at them. Horrible shrieks spread in the air. Celestial soldiers were killed again. Even the godly generals coughed blood. But they couldn't block godly generals and generals and generals and godly generals and generals and generals and godly generals and godly generals and generals. If this continued, the divine generals would also die. Damn it! Hurry up and spread the news. Call for help! Shouted godly generals, and godly generals' soldiers and generals' generals and generals'. Godly generals. You can't stop it. All of you will die. God general, godly generals. Really? Godly generals. Godly generals, heavenly palace, generals' generals. Heavenly human god, heaven's god palace, heavenly palace, generals. It was a member of the heavenly human clan. He was tall and slender, with golden hair. He stood there with his hands clasped behind his back. He was just standing there casually, but he had the aura of a conqueror. Everyone stiffened under the pressure of that aura. They couldn't help but stop. Including Lu Ming, Qiu Autumn Moon, Qiu, and the godly generals of the heavenly human clan. Because that member of the heavenly human clan was a godly lord. Indeed, his aura was definitely that of a godly lord. Another godly lord had appeared in the heavenly palace. Lord of heaven! Shouted a godly general of the heavenly palace. He was extremely excited. Lord of heaven is here. You traitors are going to die. Ha! You dare attack the heavenly palace? You all deserve to die. Some heavenly soldiers and godly generals laughed. Lu Ming, Qiu Autumn Moon and the others' hearts sank. However, the expressions on the two burly men's faces were incomparably calm. It was as if they weren't facing a godly lord or a lord of heaven, but an ordinary person. Finally, a lord of heaven has appeared. Not bad. Not bad. The two burly men smiled. They looked very relaxed. This made the lord of heaven frown. His eyes were like lightning as he scanned the surroundings. Suddenly, the lord of heaven's eyes lit up like two burning suns. Hide in the dark. Come out, the lord of heaven said coldly. Then he reached out and grabbed at the void. Boom! There was a huge explosion in the void. Everything was completely annihilated and turned into nothingness. No, there was still something that wasn't annihilated. It was a figure. It was an incomparably huge figure standing in the void. Just his head alone was larger than a star. As he stood in the starry sky, it seemed as though the stars in the sky were revolving around him. Primordial God Spirit. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He stood there dumbfounded, his eyes widening. It was a primordial God Spirit. There was no mistake. It was a real primordial God Spirit, a pure primordial God Spirit. He didn't cultivate the primordial God body. A living primordial God Spirit. It was not just Lu Ming. Qiu Yu, as well as the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, widened their eyes. They stood rooted to the ground in shock. The primordial God Spirit wasn't a stranger to everyone in the primitive universe. It was like thunder in their ears. Most people cultivated God power. The source of God power was the power controlled by the primordial God Spirit. However, almost no one had seen the primordial God Spirit. The primordial God Spirit was just a legend. It had disappeared in the primitive universe for a long time. The incipient God era had become history. Some people said that the primordial God Spirit was extinct. There was no primordial God Spirit in the primitive universe. But now, a living primordial God Spirit had suddenly appeared. How could they not be shocked? You're from the primordial God Lake? The Lord of Heaven's pupils shrank as he spoke coldly. Lu Ming, Qiu Autumn Moon, and the others were shaken. Wasn't the place they wanted to go to the primordial God Lake? Did the experts from the primordial God Lake come to support them? They were overjoyed. That's right. We've waited for a Lord of Heaven. Today, I'm going to take your head back, the primordial God Spirit spoke. Before he could finish, he took action. He extended a giant hand, grabbing at the Lord of Heaven. The primordial God Spirit's hand shattered a large area of the starry sky. Wherever it passed, everything was destroyed. General of the defeated army, since you're here, I'll send you to reunite with your friends. The Lord of Heaven of the heavenly palace roared. He turned into a jet of brilliant light, shooting toward the primordial God Spirit. A giant sword light shot out, slashing at the primordial God Spirit. Boom! The earth-shattering collision exploded. The two peerless characters were fighting fiercely. The void had completely turned into primal chaos. Lu Ming and the others retreated crazily. They tried their best to keep a distance as they were afraid of getting involved. Chapter 4197. The starry sky was shaking, the stars were exploding, and the stars were extinguished one after another. The battle between the primordial God and the Lord of Heaven was too terrifying. That area was completely turned into chaos. Lu Ming and the others couldn't see what was happening inside. They could only vaguely see two figures fighting fiercely, but they couldn't tell who won and who lost, who had the upper hand, and who was suppressed. After a while, a shrill scream was heard, and then a figure flew out of the chaos. It was the Lord of Heaven in the heavenly palace. However, this heavenly monarch was in a very sorry state. His lower body was gone and had disappeared. Half of his head was gone, and his body was in tatters. The invincible demeanor he had before had long disappeared without a trace. There was fear in his remaining eye. He didn't dare to stay any longer, and he used all his strength to escape. In a flash, he disappeared from where he was. No one knew where he had escaped to. The heavenly soldiers and divine generals were dumbfounded. Was the Lord of Heaven defeated? At this moment, the primal chaos churned, and a humongous figure appeared. It was the primordial God. The primordial God was in a much better state than the Lord of Heaven. There were only a few more wounds on his body, but he didn't seem to be in a serious condition. Apparently, the primordial God had won. Run! At that moment, a divine general finally came to his senses and turned around to run. The Lord of Heaven had escaped after being defeated. Wouldn't it be suicide for them to face a living primordial God? All the heavenly soldiers and divine generals were horrified. Even the divine general of the heavenly human race who attacked Lu Ming and the others in the morning was the same. His eyes were full of fear, and he fled frantically. He couldn't care less about Lu Ming and the others. The primordial God snorted, as if because the Lord of Heaven had escaped. He was very unhappy. As he snorted, an invisible ripple spread out, and the fleeing celestial soldiers and divine generals suddenly stopped. Their bodies stiffened in the air, their eyes filled with fear. "No! You won't have a good ending for offending my heavenly human tribe." Then blood-curdling screams were heard. One by one, the celestial soldiers and divine generals were reduced to ashes. Yes, they were directly turned into ashes. Even their armor and divine weapons were turned into ashes. They couldn't resist at all. However, Lu Ming, Xiao Yu, and the others were completely fine. It was as if a gust of wind had brushed past them. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. With a cold snort, those celestial soldiers and divine generals were reduced to ashes before they could even make a move. Some of those godly generals had the strength of the sixth great supreme god layer, and they were wearing powerful battle armor, but it was useless. The gap between them was just too big. From this, one could see just how powerful a divine master was. There was an insurmountable gap between a great supreme god and a divine master. Moreover, the primitive divine spirit in front of them was extremely powerful, even among divine masters. I've read about the primitive divine spirit before. It's said that when the primitive divine spirit was born, even the weakest primitive divine spirit had the cultivation of the divine emperor realm. With a little bit of cultivation, they could easily reach the great supreme god realm. Some talented primitive divine spirits could easily reach the divine master realm if they worked hard. This primitive divine spirit is probably one of the most talented among the primitive divine spirits. This information appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Killing those celestial soldiers and divine generals seemed like a trivial matter to the primitive divine spirit. Then he looked at Xiao Yu and asked, "Your divine Lord Dream Void's disciples?" "That's right, Senior. My teacher is being surrounded by the experts of the Heavenly Palace. Senior, please help us," Xiao Yu hurriedly said. The other two disciples of Divine Lord Dream Void also hurriedly asked for help. "Don't worry about Divine Lord Dream Void. We'll send someone else to rescue him. We can't stay here for long. I'll take you away first." With that, the primitive divine spirit waved his hand and a powerful force swept toward Lu Ming's group. This force was ancient and filled with the aura of time, as if it had come from the ancient universe. What rich divine power! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He also felt that this force was a kind of divine power, but it was incomparably ancient and powerful and incomparably pure. This is the source of divine power. When a divine power is cultivated to the highest level and awakens all the origin divine power factors, it's probably in this state. Lu Ming's mind was filled with all kinds of thoughts. While Lu Ming was thinking about all sorts of things, the force had already engulfed them. In a flash, they disappeared from their original spot. The primitive divine spirit carried them at an incredible speed, breaking through the void and traversing countless galaxies and star fields in an instant. It was like riding a wormhole. In less than 10 minutes, the surrounding environment changed and Lu Ming's group appeared on a vast land. Lu Ming looked around and found that they were in a mountain range. This mountain range was majestic and mighty, vast and filled with an ancient aura. This aura was as if this land had been passed down from the beginning of the universe. This aura is very similar to the aura of the primitive divine spirit world. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had been to the primitive divine spirit world before. There were 13 famed mountains there, and each famed mountain had given birth to a primitive divine spirit. Lu Ming found that the aura here was very similar to that world. However, it was also different. The ancient aura of this world was even richer and more intense. "This is the primitive divine lake." A deep voice sounded. It was the primitive divine spirit. At this moment, his body had shrunk and turned into a burly man filled with a domineering aura. "Junior Autumn Moon greets Senior. Junior Lu Ming greets Senior. Junior." Lu Ming and the others hurriedly cupped their fists and bowed. This was a genuine primitive divine spirit. Primitive divine spirits were born at the beginning of the universe. In other words, this being in front of them had been alive since the beginning of the universe. How long had that been? Could a primitive divine spirit live for so long? It was almost coexisting with the universe. Facing such a being, they did not dare to be careless. "You're welcome. Follow me into the city. Your master should be here soon," the primitive divine spirit said, then stepped into the air and headed in a direction. Lu Ming and the others followed and found that there was a huge city in front of the mountain range. It lay between the universe and was even more majestic than the mountain range. Lu Ming was curious. He did not know what kind of world the primitive divine lake was. It even had a real primitive divine spirit. Chapter 4198. Soon, the primordial divine spirit led them into the city. The huge city was very big, and there were many buildings inside. One could see that there were many people here, and it was a sea of people. Lu Ming and the rest flew across the sky in a flash. They did not alarm the people below. In the center of the city was a huge mountain that pierced the sky. It stood out like a crane in a flock of chickens. Some buildings could be seen on the peak of the mountain. Lu Ming and the others landed on a flat piece of land on the mountain peak. It was very quiet and there was no one here. "This is my cultivation ground. From now on, all of you will stay here, surely." "Wait a moment, bring them in." The primordial divine spirit ordered one of the muscular men. "Yes, Lord incipient God." One of the muscular men bowed and accepted the order. "They're here." At this moment, the primordial divine spirit looked at the void. The void split open and 3 figures appeared. One of them was God Lord Dream Void. However, she was in a sorry state and her aura was weak. Her clothes were stained with blood. Even with God Lord Dream Void's strength, she was in such a sorry state. One could imagine how intense the battle had been. Beside God Lord Dream Void was a middle-aged man and woman. His appearance looked very ordinary, but the aura on his body was incomparably terrifying. Although they did not deliberately release their auras, Lu Ming was still shocked. It was like an invincible existence was standing in the void. Godlords. These two were definitely godlords. Lu Ming's heart thumped. He had a new understanding of the primordial divine lake's strength. So far, there were 3 godlords. With such strength, even in the primitive universe, he would be ranked very high. Generally speaking, only the top 100 races of the primitive universe's 10,000 races list had godlords. Moreover, the lower-ranked races usually only had 1 godlord. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, some weaker races would occasionally have a godlord, but such situations were rare. The primordial divine lake already had 3. The strength of the other 2 was unknown because he had not seen them fight. However, the one who brought Lu Ming and the others back was definitely terrifying. He had almost left a Lord of Heaven behind. God Lord Dream Void and the other 2 appeared on the mountain peak in a flash. "Master, are you okay?" Chiu Yu and the other 2 quickly went over and asked in concern. "I'm fine." God Lord Dream Void smiled. She was relieved to see that the 3 of them were fine. God Lord Dream Void glanced at Lu Ming but did not pay him much attention. She thought that Lu Ming was from the primordial divine lake. "Dream Void, you really are the Lord's heart?" There was a look of anticipation in the eyes of the primitive god who had brought Lu Ming and the rest here. The other 2 divine lord experts did the same. Lu Ming was curious. What kind of legendary object was the Lord of God's heart that could make the Lord of Gods look forward to it? "That's right, I've brought it out," God Lord Dream Void said. She then looked at the 3 of them. Autumn Moon nodded. With a wave of her hand, a metal box flew out. This metal box was covered in runes that sealed it. "You guys, step back," God Lord Dream Void said. She was talking to the 3 of them. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and the others all stepped back. The primordial divine spirit waved his hand and a light screen appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others, protecting them. God Lord Dream Void began to break the seal on the metal box. Soon, the seal was broken and the metal box opened. Dong dong dong. As soon as the metal box was opened, Lu Ming heard a series of sounds that sounded like war drums. Every thud caused the void to tremble. Lu Ming felt that his heart was trembling as well, as if it was about to explode. At the same time, A tide-like aura rushed out of the metal box. It was incomparably terrifying. In the next instant, a dazzling blood-red light shot out of the metal box. The Divine Lords quickly took action and sealed the void so that the blood-red light could not shine out. Otherwise, the entire city would be alarmed. Then, a ball of red light flew out of the metal box. A heart. Is that the main god's heart? Lu Ming opened his eyes wide. He realized that it was a heart that had flown out of the metal box. A heart the size of a human head was still beating, as if it was alive. One could see that there were dense runes covering the heart, which should be sealing the heart. However, even with the seal, there was still a terrifying and boundless aura emanating from it. Lu Ming felt his body tremble. He couldn't help but step back. His body felt like it was about to explode. Facing this heart was like facing an incomparably terrifying and tyrannical existence. Qiu Yu and the others weren't any better. They couldn't help but step back. Even the two strong men of the sixth great supreme god layer were the same. They were still under the protection of the original godly spirit's energy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to resist it. What a terrifying qi. Why do I feel that this qi is even stronger than the Divine Lords and the Lord of Heaven's qi? It's much stronger. A thought emerged in Lu Ming's mind. Then he was stunned by the thought. Could it be that this was a heart that was even stronger than the Divine Lords? But didn't the original universe say that the Divine Lords were the strongest? Could there be someone stronger than the Divine Lords? The main god's heart? A main god? What is a main god? Is it a kind of original godly spirit? Various thoughts appeared in Lu Ming's mind. The qi emitted by the heart was very similar to the original godly spirit's qi. However, it was very ancient and terrifying. It's really the main god's heart. That's great. The original godly spirit was pleasantly surprised and excited. Not bad. With the main god's heart, the original godly lake can cultivate with it. Our strength will definitely increase and many experts will be born. The other Divine Lord middle-aged woman was also pleasantly surprised. Meng Su, we really have to thank you this time. After a while, the Divine Lords calmed down and one of them thanked God Meng Su solemnly. You're welcome. The main god's heart originally belonged to the original godly spirit. It was just sealed in the heavenly palace. Moreover, the heavenly palace has done a lot of evil. They're our common enemy. I brought it out to increase your strength. In the future, you'll have a better chance of dealing with the heavenly palace. God Meng Su said, no matter what, we still have to thank you. Meng Su, you're badly injured. You should hurry up and heal. The Divine Lord middle-aged woman said. God Meng Su nodded. Then, he told the three Divine Lords to stay here for the time being. After that, the God Lords and God Lord Dream Void left the place. Only Lu Ming, Qiu Moon, and the two Divine Lords of the sixth great supreme god layer were left on the mountain peak. Chapter 4199. Everyone, come with us. We'll take you to where you'll be staying. A brawny man smiled. Thank you. Lu Ming smiled. The two brawny men led the way while Lu Ming and the others followed behind. Along the way, Lu Ming and the others asked about the primordial divine lake. The primordial divine lake is a huge world. Many primordial divine spirits were born in this world countless years ago. Therefore, the people in the primordial divine lake are either the descendants of the primordial divine spirits or those who cultivate the primordial divine body, a brawny man explained. His name was Shirley. Why does this world look so similar to the primordial divine spirit world? Lu Ming's heart stirred. He was very curious. Can you see a lake over there? Shirley pointed to the west. Lu Ming and the group looked into the distance. They were on the top of the mountain and their position was very high. After taking a closer look, they could indeed see that there seemed to be a lake in the west of the city. It was just that this lake was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it. It was like an ocean. It could be seen that the enormous city was built on the edge of a lake. That lake is the primordial divine lake. There's a city in each of the four directions of the primordial divine lake. We're in one of them. This mountain peak is the core of this city. Some of the most powerful divine masters live at the peak of this mountain. Therefore, ordinary people are unable to come up to this mountain peak. It is very quiet here, and no one will disturb you, Shirley explained. Lu Ming was even more shocked after hearing Shirley's explanation. If there were 4 such cities, then how many Divine Master Realm experts were there in those cities? According to Shirley's words, some of the most powerful Divine Masters, there must be many Divine Masters in the primordial Divine Lake. Then, Lu Ming sensed the environment carefully. The Divine Qi here was unimaginably rich. It was even richer than when the Dragon Clan's mother planet was revived. Moreover, the place was filled with an ancient aura. It was the aura of the primordial divine spirits. Those who cultivated divine power would definitely improve quickly if they cultivated here. For example, if his past self cultivated here, he would definitely be blessed by nature. Should I let my past self cultivate here? Lu Ming pondered. The 36 array discs in his hand could open a wormhole to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Not only could it allow outsiders to enter the mother planet of the dragon race, it could also allow the mother planet of the dragon race to exit. After he opened the wormhole and connected the dragon race's mother planet to this place, he could let his past self come here. Let's wait. We're new here. Let's talk about it after we settle down. Lu Ming thought. Soon, they arrived in front of a courtyard. You can stay here for now. If there's anything, you can send us a message. This is my contact number. Shirley took out a voice transmission jade talisman and exchanged some contact information with Lu Ming and the others. The people of the primitive divine lake were enemies with the heavenly palace. Naturally, they would not use the dreamy heavenly jade. Lu Ming and the others stayed here for the night while Shirley and the other 2 left. Dream Sky City, in a huge hall. Primordial Divine Lake, Dream Void. A cold voice came from the hall, full of anger. At the same time, it was accompanied by a terrifying aura, causing the people around the hall to tremble. Because this was the aura of the Lord of Heaven. A Lord of Heaven was furious. And that traitor heavenly soldier, have you found out? What's his background? In the hall, a Lord of Heaven said coldly. Yes, that heavenly soldier is called Mu Yun. He's a very powerful sky pride. Even Yi Yu was defeated by him. Someone below answered. To be able to defeat Yi Yu, that's rare. But no matter how strong he is, it's useless if he can't be used by me. Where did he come from? A Lord of Heaven asked. From the Fengdu Sword sect of the Iron Sea Star Region Group. Someone below answered. Iron Sea Star Region Group? Fengdu Sword sect? Pass down my order. From today onwards, Fengdu Sword sect will cease to exist. A Lord of Heaven gave the order. Someone immediately accepted the order. A cold light flashed in his eyes. If there was no need to exist, then it would naturally be destroyed. Lord of Heaven, I've also found out that Mu Yun seems to be very close to a sky pride of the World Turtle Clan and the Elf Princess. How should we deal with him? Someone else asked. Very close? What do you mean? A Lord of Heaven frowned and asked. It's because they were very close to each other when they were participating in the Heavenly Soldier assessment and often acted together. In addition, that Mu Yun seems to be the fiancé of the Elf Princess Ling Yue. Someone answered. He, the Elf Clan. A Lord of Heaven sneered, his eyes cold. It's not the right time to touch the Elf Clan or the World Turtle Clan. Send someone to monitor them first. If there's any movement, report it immediately. A Lord of Heaven said. Yes. Someone accepted the order. Everyone, Lord of Heaven, how should we deal with that Mu Yun? Someone else asked. He entered the heavenly palace, became a heavenly soldier, and put on the heavenly soldier armor. Where else can he escape to? Immediately call a divine master over and activate the restrictive power of the heavenly soldier armor to kill Mu Yun. A Lord of Heaven ordered. Yes, Lord of Heaven. Someone accepted the order and left. Not long after, a white-haired old man entered the hall. This was a divine master. The divine masters of the heavenly palace were responsible for refining all kinds of divine armors, battle suits, and inscribing all kinds of formation and restrictive power. They were also able to activate the restrictive power inside the armor. Everyone, Lord of Heaven, the traitor who betrayed the heavenly palace must die. This subordinate will activate the restrictive power and kill that traitor. The white-haired divine master bowed and immediately began to make his move. As he performed a series of hand seals, strange runes began to appear in his hands and swirl around like little snakes, as if they had come to life. He was activating the restrictive power inside the heavenly soldier armor. However, after a while, the white-haired divine master's face became more and more solemn and ugly. After a while, his expression was no longer ugly. Instead, it was gloomy. In the hall, the gazes of the Lord of Heaven also darkened. After a while, the white-haired divine master stopped and let out a long breath. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. "What's going on?" A Lord of Heaven asked. "It's useless. The restrictive power has lost its effect." "I can't sense it at all," the white-haired divine master said. "Get to the point." One of the heaven monarchs frowned and said coldly. "In other words, the restrictive power in Mu Yun's body has been refined and destroyed." The white-haired divine master said with a grave expression. "What? How is that possible?" A few exclamations sounded. In the hall, a total of 5 Lord of Heaven stood up together, and a terrifying aura emanated from their bodies. Many people below didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They were under great pressure. Chapter 4200. The faces of the 5 heavenly lords were dark and gloomy. "Isn't the prohibition power in the heavenly soldier armor indestructible?" one of the Lord of Heaven asked coldly. The white-haired priest broke out in a cold sweat under the pressure of the 5 Lord of Heaven. "That's right. The power of the seals in the celestial battle armor can be distributed to every cell. Even a divine lord would find it difficult to destroy them. There's only one way to destroy the power of the seals on the celestial battle armor." The white-haired priest paused, his eyes filled with shock. "The forbidden body," one of the Lord of Heaven said coldly, his eyes filled with murderous intent. The other 4 Lord of Heaven did the same, their eyes filled with murderous intent. They knew that only a priest from the heavenly palace could destroy the prohibition power in the heavenly soldier armor. Otherwise, there was only one other possibility: a forbidden body. They knew about the forbidden body and the mysteries of the forbidden power. The forbidden power could be distributed to every cell, so it was not difficult to destroy the prohibition power in the heavenly soldier armor. "I didn't expect Mu Yun to have a forbidden body. No wonder he's so strong and can defeat Yu." Another Lord of Heaven said coldly. "There's Lu Ming in the Dragon Clan's mother planet, and there's Mu Yun outside. 2 forbidden bodies," another Lord of Heaven said with a gloomy face. 2 people with the forbidden physique had appeared in the same era. This was not a good sign. The forbidden body was a great enemy of the heavenly palace, and they had to be taken down. "We can't let go of the forbidden body. We have to take it down. Moreover, the Lord God's heart is at the primordial divine lake, which will increase their strength. We can't let them." "Primordial divine lake. How dare you? Don't think we don't know where you are. It seems like the heavenly palace hasn't made a move for many years, and these people are getting bolder. Spread the news and gather a portion of the divine masters. We can't let this matter rest." The Lord of Heaven spoke with icy murderous intents. Lu Ming was completely unaware that the fact that he possessed a taboo physique had been exposed. After resting for a day, he had recovered to his peak condition. This primitive divine lake world is very similar to the primitive divine spirit world. The people here are either the descendants of the primitive divine spirit or those who cultivate the primitive divine body. This is interesting. Why don't we go and take a look? The more Lu Ming thought about it, the more curious he became. Immediately, he pulled Autumn Moon and Autumn Moon's 2 senior sisters down the mountain, intending to walk around and broaden his horizons. Autumn Moon and Lu Ming had not seen each other for many years. Naturally, he did not have any objections. As for the 2 senior sisters from Autumn Moon, they were very curious about this place and naturally agreed. The 4 of them walked down the mountain. Not long after, they arrived at the foot of the mountain. Then they flew into the distance. In front of them, they could see many tall buildings and a large crowd. Boom! Suddenly, Lu Ming and the rest discovered that there was a violent roar in the sky in front of them. Streaks of terrifying force swept in all directions. In the sky, two huge figures appeared and were fighting fiercely. The two figures were extremely huge. They were more than 10 million feet tall. The two huge figures were fighting fiercely in the sky. Are they primitive divine spirits? One of Autumn Moon's senior sisters exclaimed. No, their auras aren't rich and pure enough. They aren't real primitive divine spirits. They should be the descendants of the primitive divine spirits, Lu Ming explained. His past self cultivated the universe myriad Dao technique. He cultivated various divine powers and primitive divine power. He even cultivated the primitive divine blood. Hence, he knew the primitive divine spirits very well. The two people fighting before him were not pure primitive divine spirits. They should be the descendants of the primitive divine spirits or experts who cultivated the primitive divine body. These two beings were very powerful. They had definitely reached the high level of the divine emperor. However, there was no killing intent between them. They were probably just sparring. Sure enough, the two sides fought for a while, but there was no clear victor. Then, they turned into two burly men, laughed, and flew to a place and disappeared. The other people around them were also not surprised by this. What a strange place. Autumn Moon mumbled. It is indeed strange. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming and the others sped up. However, they were stopped when they approached a bustling area. 5 young men stood in front of Lu Ming and the rest. The 5 young men looked to be in their 20s. They scanned Lu Ming and the others. When their eyes fell on Autumn Moon and the others, they were stunned. "For you, I haven't seen you before." A young man with red hair was the first to speak. "We just came to the primitive divine lake not long ago. My master is a friend of the primitive divine lake." One of Autumn Moon's senior sisters replied. "Oh, so you are outsiders. You just came to the primitive divine lake." The 5 young men looked at each other and smiled. "Ladies, you have just arrived at the primordial divine emperor. I believe you are not familiar with the environment here. Why don't you let us bring you around for a tour?" The young man with red hair said with a smile. His eyes kept wandering between Autumn Moon and Autumn Moon's senior sisters. Chiao Yu and Chiao Yu's 2 senior sisters were undoubtedly rare women in the world. They were peerlessly beautiful and peerlessly beautiful. This was especially true for Chiao Yu. She had a unique temperament that could involuntarily attract the attention of others. Lu Ming frowned. He knew what these young men were up to. How could he let them have designs on Autumn Moon? "No need. We can walk around on our own," Lu Ming said and refused. The 5 young men's faces darkened immediately. They looked at Lu Ming coldly. "Did I talk to you? I'm talking to the 3 ladies. What does it have to do with you?" The red-haired young man said coldly. "What he says is what I say." Autumn Moon grabbed Lu Ming's hand and said. Autumn Moon's words and Autumn Moon's actions were a slap in the face. The young men's faces darkened. "Kid, why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? Who do you think you are to walk with the 3 ladies?" "That's right. Besides, you're too greedy. You'd better give up a few of them if you want to eat all 3 of them." "That's right. If you know what's good for you, you'd better get out of here. Otherwise, I don't know what will happen to you." The young men said one after another. Their threats were self-evident. However, did Lu Ming grow up in fear? Obviously not. "What if I don't leave?" Lu Ming said calmly. "Brat, don't be too thick-skinned. I'll tell you bluntly, the 3 ladies are all peerless beauties. How can you be worthy of them? If you walk together with them, you'll be sullying them. Do you understand?" The red-haired young man shouted. "If I'm not worthy, do you think you're worthy?" Lu Ming sneered. Chapter 4201. "Of course we're good enough for her," shouted the red-haired young man. Hee, forgive me for being blunt, but you're too weak. You can't even compare to my finger," said Lu Ming, shaking his head disdainfully. "You?" The 5 young men's faces turned red, and they glared at Lu Ming furiously. Boom! One of the young men exuded a powerful aura, forming a powerful pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming. 8th Godly Emperor Layer. The young man had the cultivation of the 8th divine emperor realm. He took a step forward and the air shook. Then he threw a punch at Lu Ming. "I'll show you who's good enough for her and who's not." His voice and his fist arrived in front of Lu Ming at the same time, aiming at Lu Ming's face. Being able to break through to the 8th godly emperor layer wasn't bad at all, so he was very arrogant. However, in front of Lu Ming, such a cultivation level was really not enough. Lu Ming waved his hand and slapped him as if he was swatting a fly. Instantly, there was a strong gust of wind and a terrifying force swept out. With a cracking sound, the other party's fist bones shattered. He screamed and his body flew backward, crashing onto the ground below and vomiting a mouthful of blood. "You're so weak and you want to talk about being good enough for me?" said Lu Ming indifferently. He didn't try to hide his mockery. Normally, Lu Ming wouldn't make fun of other people, but when it came to his women, it was a different matter. He and Chiu Moon had been separated for so many years, they had just met again, and that young man was trying to steal her away. How could he be happy? The other 4 young men's expressions changed drastically. They hadn't thought that Lu Ming would be so strong. That young man couldn't withstand a single attack from Lu Ming. They knew very well that although the young man was only at the 8th divine emperor realm, he could fight someone who was 3 levels higher than him. He was considered a top genius. Not many people in the divine emperor realm could be his match. However, he had been sent flying by Lu Ming's slap. Lu Ming's battle prowess was somewhat unexpected. "So you've already broken through to the 9th godly emperor layer, no wonder you're so arrogant. But let me tell you, even if you're at the same cultivation level, there's a huge difference in fighting abilities. Let me show you what real fighting abilities are." The red-haired young man's eyes were filled with a cold light. He stepped out, and his powerful aura exploded. 9th godly emperor layer. The red-haired young man had the strength of the 9th godly emperor layer. A layer of red heat spread out from his body. It was extremely hot, and it burned the void within a radius of dozens of meters into pitch black. That was because the space had been burned. It was pitch black, and there was nothing there. "Kill!" the red-haired youth shouted as he punched out at Lu Ming. The instant he punched out, his fist rapidly grew in size. A layer of fiery red hair appeared on his fist, and there were also fiery red flames burning on the hair. A fist the size of a small mountain pressed down. Before it even arrived, the scorching flames seemed like they were going to burn Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's expression didn't change at all. He was calm and indifferent. Lu Ming didn't fear anyone at the same cultivation level as him. He had already reached the limit of the godly emperor layer. 9 layers was the limit, and it was difficult to surpass it. Unless someone could surpass 10 layers, but according to Gu Mo, that was impossible. Boom! Lu Ming casually slapped the fiery red fist. There was a loud bang and the flames were extinguished. The red-haired young man retreated a few thousand meters before he could stabilize himself. He seemed to be in a sorry state. "That's all you've got?" said Lu Ming indifferently. "You want to die?" shouted the red-haired young man furiously. He had wanted to show off in front of the beautiful women of the Autumn Moon Festival, but in the end he had been humiliated. He let out a roar, and then his body expanded rapidly, becoming 1,000,000 meters tall. He stood tall, and his head reached into the sky. He was a giant ape. The red-haired young man turned into a 1,000,000 zhang tall giant ape. His body was covered in red flames, and his aura was wild. Primitive divine body? No, it's primitive divine blood. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He could tell that the red-haired young man had refined more than 1 drop of primitive divine blood. "And there's a big battle over there. It seems to be Yuan Jin. It's him. I heard that he has refined 88 drops of primitive divine blood. Let's go and take a look." "Let's go." The red-haired young man became 1,000,000 zhang tall, and the surrounding area was alarmed. Many people flew over. Boom! A long red rod appeared in the red-haired young man's hand, and he smashed it at Lu Ming. The fiery red staff was as huge as a mountain. He can fight someone who is 4 levels above him. Lu Ming saw the red-haired young man's attack, and he had a rough idea of his combat strength. He was calculating how much strength he should use. Then, Lu Ming threw out a punch. Lu Ming used the great fragmentation skill in this punch. Lu Ming's tiny fist and the red long rod that was as big as a mountain swelled together. There was no loud explosion. When the two attacks collided, the red rod was covered with cracks, and then it exploded with a bang. Then, the fist force continued to hit the red-haired young man's body. The red-haired young man screamed. His chest was penetrated by the fist force, and there was a hole in his chest. The red-haired young man's body was like a deflated balloon, and he quickly shrank back to his original size. He was pushed back dozens of miles, and he spat out blood. Yuan Jin was defeated in one move. The surrounding people could not help but widen their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. Yuan Jin was considered a rather famous genius at the primordial divine lake. Many people knew him, and they even knew of his combat strength. Among the divine emperors, only a few people could suppress Yuan Jin. No one dared to say that they could defeat him. However, Yuan Jin was defeated in one move. And it was a stranger. Who is he? Is he a new genius at the primitive sacred lake? But why don't I feel the aura of a primitive divine spirit from him? He is really strong. He can defeat Yuan Jin in one move. Is he able to fight someone who is 4.5 levels above him, or even 5 levels above him? The people around started to talk about it. Now, who is qualified? Lu Ming looked at Yuan Jin indifferently. Yuan Jin was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. The other 3 young men were pale, and they did not dare to say a word. They were not as strong as Yuan Jin, and they would be defeated if they went up. Wait and see. Someone will take care of you. The red-haired young man pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. Oh, you want to call for help? Well, I will wait here. Call for help. As long as it is a fight between people of the same level, I will accept it. Lu Ming said, and his voice spread in all directions. Chapter 4202. Yuan Jin wanted to call for help, so Lu Ming accepted his challenge. Of course, he had another condition: they had to fight against cultivators of the same level. Lu Ming knew that the gap between godly emperors and great supreme gods was huge. Even though he was strong, he wasn't invincible. If his opponents had some great supreme gods, he wouldn't be able to defeat them. If they were godly emperors, he would be invincible. However, Lu Ming's words still sounded very arrogant in the ears of others. How arrogant? He's going to fight against godly emperors. Does he really think he's invincible? Primitive Divine Lake has many monstrous geniuses. Yuan Jin's cousin, Yuan Zhan, is even more terrifying. He can fight against cultivators who are 5 cultivation levels higher than him. Just watch, he'll be here soon. The surrounding people of the primeval divine lake were discussing animatedly, and the news kept spreading, attracting even more people to watch. All right, wait for me, shouted Yuan Jin. Then, he took out a talisman and started communicating telepathically. Lu Ming watched calmly. The reason why he had directly accepted the other party's challenge and waited here was because he was a little curious. He was curious about the strength of primitive divine lake. Since the primordial divine lake dared to challenge the heavenly palace, it was not enough to have only high-end combat power. Lu Ming wanted to see how strong primitive divine lake's geniuses were. Besides, almost all the people of primitive divine lake practiced the primitive godly body. Lu Ming's past self practiced the primitive godly body. Lu Ming also wanted to see how strong he was. Another important reason was that Lu Ming's cultivation level had reached a bottleneck. He was stuck at the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. He couldn't break through for the time being. It would be difficult to break through if he just meditated in seclusion. It was better to fight against people of all kinds. Maybe he could find an opportunity to break through. That was hard to say. Therefore, if Yuan Jin wanted to fight, he wasn't afraid. Everybody waited calmly. They didn't have to wait for too long. In the distance, a few silhouettes appeared. One of them had red hair. His chi was similar to Yuan Jin's, but his chi was even more aggressive. Yuan Zhan really came. There's going to be a good show. Someone cried out in alarm, looking at the red-haired youth. Cousin, you've come. When Yuan Jin saw Yuan Zhan, He hurriedly went over to greet him with a smile. "Where is the person you're talking about?" Yuan Zhan was very direct and went straight to the point. "That's the one. He's extremely arrogant. He said that he doesn't fear anyone from our primordial divine lake when fighting at the same level." Yuan Jin pointed at Lu Ming. What big words. I want to see how strong he is." Yuan Zhan looked at Lu Ming, a sharp light flashing in his eyes. A powerful burning aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Bang! Following that, he took a step forward, causing the void to tremble violently. An even more berserk aura burst forth. At the same time, his body rapidly grew in size until he was 1,000,000 zhang tall. He was also a giant ape covered in fiery red fur. The only difference was that he was not holding a staff. Instead, he was holding a saber. His aura was much stronger than Yuan Jin's. "Take this! Divine Ape Slash!" Yuan Zhan roared. He held the saber with both hands and slashed with all his might. The giant flaming saber slashed violently at Lu Ming. The flaming saber split the sky in half and slashed down at Lu Ming's head. The power was so strong that it was horrifying. Even an ordinary Emperor God expert would be shocked and would want to avoid it. It's indeed powerful. This person probably has a lot of primordial divine blood. His battle strength is equivalent to fighting someone 5 levels higher. Such a genius is comparable to the battle god Yuan Wen. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. It seemed that the primordial divine lake was not weak. On second thought, it was normal. After all, they were an existence that dared to go against the heavenly palace. In addition, many people in the primordial divine lake were the descendants of the primordial divine spirit. Although their talents were not as strong as the pure primordial divine spirit, they were still terrifying. They were much stronger than ordinary races. Moreover, with the guidance of the real primordial divine spirit, it was normal for some monstrous geniuses to be born. Lu Ming believed that there must be more geniuses in the primordial divine lake who were more talented than Yuan Zhan. Lu Ming was getting more and more interested. However, Yuan Zhan was not a threat to Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed the air with his palm and a saber condensed in his hand as well. It was the Great God Saber technique, one of the 3,000 ancient secret skills. Lu Ming slashed with his saber. The two sabers met in the air and collided. With a clang, sparks flew and the two sabers vibrated violently. However, it was clear that Yuan Zhan's battle saber was vibrating even more violently. Then, his battle saber flew out of his hand and stabbed into a mountain in the distance, splitting the mountain in half. Everything in the surroundings was burned to ashes by the flames on the battle saber, including the rocks. At the same time, Yuan Zhan's body retreated rapidly. Every step he took caused a huge explosion in the void. The people behind him quickly retreated to avoid Yuan Zhan. Yuan Zhan widened his eyes and stared at Lu Ming in horror. He couldn't believe that his weapon was knocked away by Lu Ming in one move. "That's all you got," Lu Ming said indifferently. He swung his saber again and a saber radiance flew towards Yuan Zhan. Yuan Zhan roared and tried to block with his fist. However, it was useless. A huge scar appeared on Yuan Zhan's body as the saber radiance slashed past. He let out a scream and his huge body shrunk rapidly to the size of an ordinary person. There was still a saber wound on his chest and blood kept flowing out. Yuan Zhan's face was covered in cold sweat. He felt that Lu Ming had the ability to kill him, but he had shown mercy. He felt that he had just taken a trip to the gates of hell. How can he be so powerful? Yuan Zhan's heart was in turmoil. At the side, Yuan Jin was also dumbstruck and his face turned pale. Even Yuan Zhan was no match for Lu Ming. Lu Ming's combat strength was far beyond his expectations. What kind of monster did he offend? The surrounding people were also dumbfounded and abnormally shocked. Even Yuan Zhan was no match for Lu Ming. Who in the Divine Emperor realm could defeat him? In the primitive godly lake, there were a few cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer who were stronger than Yuan Zhan, but they were all in the primitive godly lake, looking for opportunities to break through to the great supreme god layer. Anyone else? Lu Ming asked again. He glanced at Yuan Jin, Yuan Zhan and the others. Yuan Zhan and the others pulled a long face. Lu Ming's meaning was obvious. Was there anyone else who wanted to continue attacking? He was waiting. In other words, Yuan Zhan and the others weren't strong enough. Chapter 4203. After being questioned by Lu Ming, Yuan Zhan, Yuan Jin, and the rest had ugly expressions. They gritted their teeth and remained silent, unable to say a word. Now, where were they going to find a stronger genius to deal with Lu Ming? Therefore, they could only remain silent. Interesting. I didn't expect such a powerful genius to appear after a period of seclusion. At that moment, a cold voice broke the silence. A figure walked over from the southwest. With every step he took, a flower petal would appear under his feet. It was a young man in white. He was very handsome and elegant. His temperament was poles apart from the others. The people of the primitive divine lake, regardless of gender, were more boorish and bold. Their aura was also more ancient and violent. This was related to the primitive divine body they cultivated and the descendants of the primitive divine spirit. However, this young man's temperament was completely different from the others of the primitive divine lake. It's Fei Yi. Fei Yi is here too. Is he going to fight? But hasn't he reached the God Emperor realm a long time ago? The arrival of the young man in white caused a lot of discussion. Lu Ming also looked at the young man in white with a serious expression. This young man gave him a lot of pressure. Lu Ming was naturally not afraid of anyone of the same level. However, his opponent was a God Emperor. His cultivation level was much higher and he was also a monstrous genius. Lu Ming felt a lot of pressure. Interesting. Fei Yi, are you going to fight? Another voice was heard. Another figure was coming from the northeast. It was also a young man. This young man had the typical temperament of the primitive divine lake world. He had a boorish figure and a wild temperament. He had a domineering aura. He carried a battle axe in his hand like a door plank. With every step he took, the void would shake. It was as though he was carrying a huge mountain on his back. It's Zhong Zhan. He's here too. This person is as famous as Fei Yi. It's not just him. Look in the other directions. A few more exclamations were heard. At that moment, a few young men appeared in the other directions. These young men all had unparalleled temperaments. They were not to be underestimated. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was because these few young men gave him a lot of pressure. God Emperor. Without a doubt, they were all God Emperors. At his current level of cultivation, the only ones who could pressure him were the God Emperors. As a matter of fact, these young men were the strongest geniuses of the primordial godly lake world. They were usually in seclusion, but they had all shown up at the same time. Could it be that Flying Leaf, Zhong Zhan, and the others are going to make a move? They are celestial emperors. It's beneath their dignity to fight against celestial emperors with celestial emperors. That's true. But looking at their state, they seem to be very interested. It's possible that no one will make a move. Just watch. Many people were talking about it. Even many of the older generation people were looking forward to it. The clash between the geniuses of the younger generation had always attracted a lot of attention because it represented the future, represented hope. Yuan Zhan and Yuan Jin also revealed looks of anticipation. They were looking forward to someone taking action to suppress Lu Ming. What? You want to fight? Fei Yi glanced at the other young men. Of course I want to. However, to deal with him with the cultivation of a celestial emperor, I'm afraid others will laugh at me. Zhong Zhan shook his head. That's easy. Just suppress your cultivation. I'll go and test him, said Fei Yi. Then he looked at Lu Ming. His figure flickered and he appeared in front of Lu Ming. Don't worry. I won't use my cultivation to suppress you. I'll suppress my cultivation to the 9th godly emperor layer and fight with you. It's fair, Fei Yi said. His eyes were filled with confidence. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. He didn't think too much about it. Actually, even if a celestial emperor suppressed his cultivation to the same level as him, it wasn't fair. Because the higher one's cultivation was, the more beneficial it would be to awaken one's original divine strength. It would also be easier for one to comprehend original secret techniques. If Fei Yi had broken through to the Celestial Emperor layer for a period of time, his original divine strength and original secret techniques would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. It would be incomparable to a Celestial Emperor layer cultivator. Therefore, even if he suppressed his cultivation to the Celestial Emperor layer, the quality of his original divine strength and original secret techniques were all from the Celestial Emperor layer. It wasn't fair. For example, if he was a genius of the 4th cultivation level, he could fight against cultivators who were 4 cultivation levels higher than him. When he broke through to the Celestial Emperor layer and cultivated for a period of time, his original divine strength and original secret techniques would advance by leaps and bounds. Then, if he suppressed his cultivation level back to the Celestial Emperor layer, he would be as strong as a genius who could fight against cultivators who were 5 cultivation levels higher than him. Therefore, Fei Yi said that he would suppress his cultivation level and fight against Lu Ming to be fair. That was a bit shameless. However, Lu Ming didn't feel like pointing it out. If you want to fight, let's fight. That was Lu Ming's reply. It was simple and he was confident. You're very confident. I hope you have the ability to be confident. Be careful, Fei Yi said. As soon as his voice fell, a powerful aura spread out from his body. His body was shrouded by a layer of green divine light. Then, dense leaves appeared around him. These leaves were of different shapes. Some were sword-shaped, some were saber-shaped, some were pagoda-shaped, and some were human-shaped. Kill! Fei Yi shouted coldly. With a wave of his hand, countless leaves flew towards Lu Ming. Asterisk clang. Asterisk, the sword-shaped leaves made a sword cry and slashed towards Lu Ming like a divine sword. The saber-shaped leaves were like divine sabers. They burst out dazzling saber radiance and slashed towards Lu Ming's vital points. The pagoda-shaped leaves turned into a divine pagoda and pressed down on Lu Ming. The most peculiar thing was that the human-shaped leaves were actually using secret techniques to attack Lu Ming. In an instant, at least a few hundred attacks were launched towards Lu Ming. Secret technique of origin? What a strange secret technique of origin. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. It was the first time he had seen this type of secret technique of origin. He had to admit that it was very mysterious and powerful. However, to compete with Lu Ming in terms of tricks? Then he had found the wrong person. Go. Lu Ming waved his hands. However, hundreds of secret techniques appeared between heaven and earth. Great Divine Wind Technique, Great Devil Sword Technique, Great Divine Pagoda Technique, Great Divine Saber Technique. So many secret techniques rushed towards the other party. This was not the Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming could control the secrets of many ancient secret techniques. He did not need to hide them and directly use them. Their attacks collided, causing a series of explosions to erupt. However, the duration of the explosion was very short. After a breath's time, the explosion stopped and the secret skill that Lu Ming had cast disappeared. The air was filled with leaves. However, these leaves were all split into 2 or 3 pieces. Obviously, the other party's attack was broken by Lu Ming. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.